Keanu Reeves notices a homeless mother living in her car with her baby, wrapped in mismatched blankets, struggling to stay warm on a cold night. Her exhaustion is clear, and the baby's faint cries echo in the stillness of the parking lot. What Keanu does next will not only change their lives, but leave you absolutely speechless. Before we continue this story, let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we have another special story for you. Keanu Reeves left the supermarket carrying 2 shopping bags in one hand. The night was crisp, and a gentle breeze made the trees around the parking lot whisper softly. He adjusted the hood of his jacket and glanced around. A reflex he had developed over the years, always observant but never hurried. It was a habit that kept him grounded in reality, even when the flashes of cameras tried to blur it away. It had been a long but fulfilling day. Filming for his new movie had ended earlier than expected, and he used the free time to take care of small tasks, like picking up something for dinner and reconnecting with the mundane. He enjoyed these moments: parking lots, checkout lines, shopping carts. These simple routines helped balance the chaos of fame. With his shopping done, Keanu returned to the parking lot. That's when something caught his attention. An old car, a model that looked decades old, was parked in a far-off corner. The windows were fogged, and clothes hanging inside swayed gently in the breeze. He frowned. Something felt off. At that moment, he noticed a woman pushing shopping carts to the side. Her clothes were worn, and the way she glanced around revealed a mix of exhaustion and nervousness. It was as though she was trying to remain invisible while performing a task that seemed exhausting. The connection was immediate. His eyes returned to the car, now more attuned to its details. The woman kept going back to that vehicle, as if it were her anchor amid chaos. He couldn't help but wonder, could that car be her home? The thought sent a wave of unease through him. The world was full of untold stories, but this one, for some reason, seemed to call out to him. Determined, Keanu approached slowly. He didn't want to startle her, just to understand and perhaps help. "Hi," he began, his voice low and warm. The woman, who was about to push another cart, froze mid-motion. Her eyes met his for a brief moment before darting away, as if she didn't want to maintain contact. "Are you okay? Is there any way I can help?" he asked, keeping a respectful distance. "No, I'm fine, thank you," she replied, her tone cold but not entirely masking her distrust. She stepped back, gripping the cart tightly. Her hurried tone made it clear she wanted to end the conversation. Keanu nodded, realizing that pushing further might only drive her away. "Okay, I understand. If you need anything, I'll be around." She didn't reply. With quick steps, she returned to the car, opening the door and getting inside almost automatically. Keanu stayed where he was, watching as she settled into the driver's seat. Then he saw it. Through the fogged window, the silhouette of a small baby came into view, shifting slightly in her arms. He blinked, processing the scene. His chest tightened. He knew he couldn't just walk away. Something about that woman and the child compelled him to act. As she adjusted the baby in her arms, Keanu turned to leave, but the image stayed etched in his mind. When he got into his car, he cast one last look toward the far corner of the parking lot. The silhouette of the baby was still visible. Keanu closed his eyes for a moment, letting the weight of the situation sink in. As he started the engine, one thing was certain: he wouldn't be able to ignore what he had just witnessed. The next morning, Keanu Reeves found himself driving back to the same supermarket. The previous day hadn't left his mind. The image of the woman pushing carts, the tension in her shoulders, and the old car with clothes hanging inside haunted him. He knew he could have ignored it, but something about the situation wouldn't let him turn away. Parking in the same spot as before, he looked around. The car was still there, in the same corner, with its fogged-up windows and visible belongings. A few meters ahead, he saw the woman again. This time, she was carrying a plastic bag in her hands as she walked toward the vehicle. Keanu waited, watching from a distance as she placed the bag in the back seat. After she got into the car, he grabbed two things he had brought from home: a bottle of mineral water and a new blanket still in its original packaging. He knew any gesture needed to be discreet, something that wouldn't make her feel exposed. He calmly walked up to the car and placed the items on the hood, ensuring they were clearly visible. Without saying a word, he returned to his own vehicle and waited. A few minutes later, the woman opened the car door and peeked at the hood. Her eyes fixed on the items, and she looked around as if trying to spot who had left them there. Keanu remained silent, waiting for her to take the items before her courage disappeared. Hesitating, she finally grabbed the bottle of water and the blanket. He noticed her lips moving as if she murmured something, but he couldn't hear it. Once she took the items, she hurried back into the car and shut the door. Keanu started his car and left the parking lot, feeling a mix of relief and frustration. He had done something, but it still felt like it wasn't enough. On the third day, Keanu returned to the parking lot. He knew he needed to speak with her again, but this time with more care. Watching from a distance, he saw the woman pushing carts again, her face etched with exhaustion. He waited until she was near her car before approaching. "Hi," he began, his voice soft, almost a whisper. She stopped, surprised and visibly uncomfortable. "I'm the guy who left the water and the blanket yesterday. I hope you didn't feel uncomfortable." The woman looked at him, the same wary gaze from before still present, but there was a faint shadow of curiosity. "You? Why?" The question came quickly, almost like an accusation. "I saw you here yesterday and thought you might need them, that's all," Keanu said with a shrug. He knew that in situations like this, pushing too hard could backfire. "I understand if you don't want to talk to me. I don't want to invade your space." She stayed silent for a moment before replying, "Thank you for the water and the blanket." Her words were cautious, as if each syllable carried the weight of fear, afraid to reveal too much. Keanu nodded, respecting her pace. "I just want to help, if you'll let me. And if you don't, that's fine too. But sometimes accepting help isn't weakness, it's just a way to move forward." The woman didn't respond directly, but Keanu noticed a slight relaxation in her posture. She still seemed reluctant, but the brief gratitude was progress. He decided not to push her further. Keanu was about to return to his car when a sound caught his attention. It was the muffled cry of a baby coming from inside the car. He stopped and looked in her direction, but didn't ask questions. The sound seemed to unsettle the woman, who hurriedly opened the car door and began rocking the baby in her arms. He hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Do you need anything for him? Formula, diapers, anything he might need?" The woman looked at him, her eyes gleaming with exhaustion. Her first instinct was to refuse, but Keanu noticed something shift in her expression. The mother, constantly fighting an internal battle between her pride and her desire to protect her child, was losing that battle. I need milk," she finally said, her voice almost inaudible. Keanu nodded, sensing that this small gesture of acceptance was a significant breakthrough. "Wait here. I'll be back in a few minutes." Without waiting for a response, he headed toward the supermarket. When he returned with a bag of supplies, powdered milk, diapers, and a pack of wipes, the woman seemed more suspicious than ever but accepted them. She murmured a thank you, holding the items carefully as if they were the most precious things she had ever received. As she adjusted the baby in the car, Keanu stood by her side. "I know it's none of my business, but if you need anything else, I'll be around." She hesitated before responding. They weren't supposed to be like this. Her tone was low, almost a whisper, but Keanu could sense the depth of pain in her words. That sentence was more than just a lament. It was a silent cry for help. Keanu knew then that this was just the tip of the iceberg. The story behind this woman and her baby was about to change his life, and he was ready to face whatever came next. The next day, Keanu returned to the parking lot. The scene was the same, but something about the woman's demeanor seemed different. She was outside the car, cradling the baby in her arms, staring into the distance with a look that blended exhaustion and resignation. He knew he needed to approach her carefully. "Hi," he said, keeping a respectful distance. The woman raised her eyes, surprised but less defensive than before. "You came back," she replied, her voice carrying more curiosity than distrust. Keanu gave a small smile. "I said I'd be around. I hope you didn't feel pressured yesterday." She shook her head slowly. "No, it was kind of you." He realized it was the right moment to try something more. "Can I sit?" he asked, pointing to the curb near her car. She hesitated but nodded. Keanu sat, resting his arms on his knees and letting a brief silence settle before speaking again. "You don't have to tell me anything you're not comfortable sharing, but can I ask your name?" The woman looked at him for a moment before answering. "Emily." "Nice to meet you, Emily," he said sincerely. "And the little one, what's his name?" She glanced down at the baby, who now seemed calmer. "Oliver." Keanu smiled. "Oliver is a strong name. I like it." The compliment seemed to thaw something in Emily. She relaxed slightly, though still carried a cautious posture. Keanu knew he shouldn't rush her, so he decided to share something personal. "You know, I've been through some tough things too," he began, keeping his voice gentle. "I've lost people who were my whole world. There were moments I didn't think I could keep going, but somehow I did. It wasn't easy, but I had help, and sometimes accepting help is what saves us." Emily listened silently, her eyes fixed on the baby. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, almost a whisper. "Sometimes it feels like I'm alone in the world, and no one cares." Keanu shook his head slowly. "I care," he said firmly. "And I know we don't know each other, but I want to help if you'll let me." She didn't respond immediately, but something in her expression seemed more open, more vulnerable. Later that night, while Emily slept in the car with Oliver in her arms, Keanu returned quietly to the parking lot. He carried bags filled with baby food, hygiene items, and toys. Carefully, he placed everything by the car door, along with a handwritten note. For Emily and Oliver. No strings attached, just care. The next morning, when Emily woke up and found the items, her emotions were conflicted. She held the toys in her hands, her eyes welling with tears. It was a simple gesture, yet it carried so much meaning. Part of her wanted to reject everything, to hold on to the control she still felt she had. But another part of her knew this was exactly what she needed. She looked around, but Keanu was already gone. Yet something inside her had started to shift. The following day, Emily made the decision to talk to Keanu. When he appeared in the parking lot, she called out to him before he could approach. "Thank you," she said, holding one of the bags he had left. "This means a lot." Keanu smiled. "I'm glad it helped, and if you need anything else, just let me know." Emily hesitated for a moment before speaking again. I don't usually talk about this, but..." She took a deep breath, as if summoning the courage to continue. "I lost everything, my husband, my home, my life, and what happened after, it's still hard to believe." Keanu looked her in the eyes, his face serious but full of empathy. He knew she was on the verge of revealing something important, something that would be the next step in rebuilding her trust. "You don't have to rush," he said. "I'll be here whenever you're ready." Emily swallowed hard and nodded. For the first time in a long time, she felt like someone was truly willing to listen. As Emily looked at Keanu, her eyes brimming with emotion, she finally let it out. "It all started when he died, my husband. After that, everything fell apart. And then something happened. Something no one would believe." Keanu leaned forward slightly, his expression calm but full of focus. He knew her story was just beginning, and that it would be deeper and more painful than he had imagined. Emily took a deep breath, clutching Oliver tightly against her chest. Her gaze drifted into the distance, as if she were diving into memories she had fought to keep buried. "It all started a year ago," she began, her voice trembling. "My husband Liam died in a car accident. He was coming home from work, just a regular night, or at least it should have been." Keanu stayed silent, giving her the space to continue. Emily wiped away a stubborn tear that rolled down her cheek. "When the police knocked on my door, it felt like the ground had vanished beneath me. I couldn't even process it at the time. I just remember the officer saying he didn't suffer, but that didn't matter. He was just gone." She paused, her lips quivering as she struggled to maintain control. "After that, everything turned upside down. The life insurance didn't cover enough. The bills started piling up, and Liam's parents—" She stopped, gritting her teeth. "They said I wasn't capable of taking care of Oliver." Keanu's brow furrowed. "They tried to take your son?" Emily nodded slowly. "They filed for custody, claiming I was emotionally unstable. And maybe they were right. I was a mess. But everything I did was for Oliver. I couldn't afford a decent lawyer. So, when I realized things were turning against me, I packed up my car, took what was left of my savings, and ran to another state. I thought it would be temporary, that I'd find a job and get back on my feet." Emily continued, her voice filled with bitterness. "I found a job at a cafe. I started saving money, and for a while it felt like I was making progress. But then a customer started harassing me. He'd say disgusting things, and one day I snapped and yelled at him. I tried explaining to the manager, but he didn't care and fired me." Keanu closed his eyes briefly, feeling a knot in his stomach. He could see the pain in Emily's eyes, each word revealing the weight she carried. "With the money running out, I got evicted. The car became our home. I tried looking for work, but it was hard. With Oliver always with me, no one wanted to hire a mother who, they said, wasn't dedicated enough. Since then, I've been living like this, every day just trying to survive, picking up odd jobs, pushing carts, hoping no one notices we're living here." She finally stopped, her eyes filled with tears. "And I know it's wrong. He deserves more. I should be doing better, but I'm just so tired." Keanu felt his chest tighten as he listened. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Emily," he began, carefully choosing his words, "you're fighting a battle no one should have to face alone, and no one can blame you for that." She lifted her eyes to meet his, disbelief evident in her expression. "But I should have figured it out. I should—" "You're trying," Keanu interrupted gently. "That's more than many people would do. You're fighting for Oliver every single day, and that's something incredible." Emily stayed silent, letting his words sink in. Finally, she murmured, "What do I do now? I'm at the end of my rope." Keanu looked directly at her, his determination clear. "We'll figure it out together, I promise. Wait here. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Before she could respond, Keanu stood and walked toward his car. He had a plan, and he was determined to change Emily and Oliver's lives forever. As Keanu drove away from the parking lot, Emily watched him in the rearview mirror, her heart torn between hope and fear. She wanted to believe he could help her, but life had taught her not to trust so easily. Inside his car, Keanu grabbed his phone and started making calls. He knew he needed to act fast. Whatever came next would be the first step toward transforming Emily's situation and giving her the fresh start she so desperately needed. 40 minutes later, Keanu parked back at the supermarket, his car engine still running. Emily, sitting in the old car with Oliver, raised her head at the sound. Her eyes held skepticism, but there was also a spark of curiosity. Keanu stepped out of his car and walked toward her, holding a small envelope in his hand. He stopped at a respectful distance and raised the envelope. "I got a room for you and Oliver. It's a simple motel, but it's clean and safe. You can rest there tonight, and tomorrow we'll figure out the next step." Emily stepped out of her car, holding Oliver tightly to her chest. Her eyes shifted between the envelope and Keanu's face, clearly conflicted. "I can't accept this. I don't want charity." "This isn't charity," Keanu replied, his voice firm yet gentle. "It's help. We all need help sometimes. Please let me do this for you." She hesitated, the weight of exhaustion evident in her posture. Finally, she extended her hand and took the envelope. Inside, she found a room key, a note with the motel's address, and some cash for food. She swallowed hard, feeling a mix of relief and shame. "Thank you," she said at last, her voice barely audible. Keanu smiled. "You're welcome. I'll drive behind you to make sure you get there safely." The motel room was simple, but to Emily it felt like a luxury. There was a large bed, clean sheets, and a small private bathroom. The soft yellow glow of the bedside lamp created a cozy atmosphere. She gently laid Oliver on the bed and tucked him in carefully. For the first time in weeks, he seemed to sleep deeply, free from the noise and discomfort of the car. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes welling with tears as she looked at her son. The tears began to fall uncontrollably. It was the first time in a long while that she felt a semblance of safety, a glimmer of hope. She glanced at the note that came with the key. The simple words written by Keanu echoed in her mind. "You're not alone. We're in this together." Outside, Keanu stayed in his car for a few minutes after dropping Emily off at the motel. He gazed at the night sky, the stars faintly shining against the backdrop of the city. His mind raced with thoughts. He reflected on how Emily's life had reached this point, the injustices she had faced, the daily struggles, and above all, what he could do to truly help her rebuild her life. He knew that offering a comfortable night or a bit of money wasn't enough. She needed something bigger, something that would give her and Oliver a chance at a dignified new beginning. Picking up his phone, he began making more calls. He had resources and connections, and he was determined to use them. "We're going to start something big," he murmured to himself, as he typed a message to a close friend explaining the situation. No one deserves to go through this alone. Inside the room, Emily tucked Oliver into bed, and for the first time in months, lay down on a real mattress. Exhaustion quickly took over her body, but before falling asleep, she whispered to herself, "Maybe, just maybe, this is a beginning." Meanwhile, outside, Keanu finished an important call and looked at the lit motel in the distance. A determined smile spread across his face. He knew the next step would be crucial, and that he was just beginning his mission to give Emily and Oliver the life they deserved. The next morning, Keanu woke up early, ready to put his plan into action. He had spent the night contacting friends, activating connections, and brainstorming practical solutions to help Emily and Oliver. To him, this wasn't charity. It was about giving her the opportunities she needed to rebuild her life. His first stop was a community center he had supported in the past. Speaking with the director, he explained Emily's situation. She needs temporary housing, social assistance, and if possible, a job. She's a fighter, but she's trapped in a cycle that's hard to break. The director nodded in understanding. "We can arrange temporary housing for a few weeks and connect her with social workers. We can also refer her to some job opportunities." Keanu thanked her sincerely, and before leaving, he made a significant donation to the center. He knew Emily's help was the priority, but he wanted to ensure others in similar situations could benefit too. Later that afternoon, Keanu returned to the motel. Emily was sitting on the bed with Oliver in her arms when she heard a soft knock at the door. When she opened it, she found Keanu standing there with a warm smile and a few shopping bags in hand. "I brought something for you," he said, handing her the bags. Inside, there were new clothes for her and Oliver, along with a basic hygiene kit. Emily looked at him, clearly moved. "I don't know how to thank you. You've already done so much." Keanu shook his head. "You don't need to thank me. But if you're ready, I'd like to talk about the next step." She nodded and invited him in. While Oliver played with one of the toys Keanu had left in the car days earlier, Emily sat and listened intently as he explained what he had planned. "I found a place for you and Oliver to stay for a few weeks while we organize everything else. It's temporary housing but safe, and there are people there who can help. Also, I've spoken to some contacts about job opportunities. It all depends on what you're comfortable doing." Emily blinked, stunned. It was hard to believe someone was investing so much in her and Oliver. "Why are you doing this for us?" she asked, her voice trembling. Keanu paused to think before answering. "Because I believe everyone deserves a chance to start over, and because I can. If I have the resources to help, it would be wrong not to use them." Keanu accompanied Emily to the community center, where the director greeted them warmly. The place was simple but welcoming, with clean rooms and a common area for families in need. Emily was shown to a small room with a bed for her and a crib for Oliver. As Emily looked around, taking in the space, Keanu noticed tears welling up in her eyes. "I don't know how to express what this means to me," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't even know if I'll ever be able to repay you." Keanu smiled. "Don't worry about that right now. Focus on you and Oliver. And remember, this isn't charity. It's the beginning of a new chapter." That night, as Emily put Oliver to sleep in his new crib, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Outside, Keanu spoke with the director of the community center, arranging the next steps. "I want to make sure she gets all the support she needs," he said. "And if she needs more time or other opportunities, please let me know." The director smiled. "Don't worry, you've given her something no one else has until now, a chance." As Keanu left the center, he glanced back at the lit building and murmured to himself, "Now she has a starting point, but there's still so much more to do." Weeks went by, and Emily began to settle into a new routine. With the support of the community center and Keanu's connections, she secured a part-time job as a receptionist at a small office. It wasn't just a source of income, it was her first step toward regaining her confidence. On her first day, Keanu walked her to the office door. "This is just the beginning," he said with a reassuring smile. "You're going to do great." Emily entered nervously, but was welcomed by warm colleagues and a patient manager who understood her situation. As the days passed, she grew more comfortable, receiving small compliments for her efficiency and kindness. She came home each evening exhausted, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was in control of her life. Later that evening, Emily shared the encounter with Keanu. He listened carefully as she explained her decision to allow her in-laws to visit Oliver on her terms. "You made a difficult but brave choice," Keanu said. "Giving them a chance shows how much you've grown. You're in control now." Emily smiled, feeling more secure than ever. As she watched Oliver playing on the carpet in their small apartment, she knew she was building a future full of possibilities, a future where she was no longer alone. One day, as they sat in a local cafe, sharing coffee and small talk, Emily looked at Keanu with a smile that carried equal parts gratitude and determination. "I want you to know that one day I'm going to pay back everything you've done for me." Keanu smiled, shaking his head. "Emily, you're already paying it back. Every step you take to improve your life and Oliver's is more than enough. I never did any of this expecting something in return." Her smile widened, though her eyes remained serious. "Even so, I want to help others one day, just like you helped me." Keanu nodded. "That's the best way to pay it forward, turning your story into an inspiration for others." That night, as Keanu said his goodbyes and drove home, he glanced up at the starry sky. He knew he hadn't just helped Emily change her life. She had changed his as well. He felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for what they had accomplished together. Emily, in her apartment, tucked Oliver into bed and watched him sleep peacefully. She knew the future would still bring challenges, but for the first time, she felt ready to face them with courage and hope. Her story was far from over, but the next chapter already seemed promising. And as they both moved forward with their lives, they carried with them the certainty that even in the darkest moments, there is always light, often from the most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this story, we have many more that will warm your heart. Click the screen to explore more stories of hope, compassion, and resilience.